Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, says Nigeria has saved $20 billion from petrol subsidy removal and market-based pricing of the foreign exchange rate. Edun spoke at a ceremony to mark the first 100 days in office of Esther Wilson-Jack, head of civil service of the Federation in Abuja. He said, quote, an amount of 5% of GDP is what those two subsidies were costing when there was a subsidy on PMS, when there was petroleum product generally for a long time, and when there was a subsidy of foreign exchange. Between them, they were costing 5% of GDP. The head of service, D.D. Wilson-Jack, says different reforms are ongoing to reposition the civil service for efficiency and productivity.
As of October, and not really earlier, as of October this year, October 2, I would even say, the full implementation of the key reforms of market-based pricing of PMS, market-based pricing of foreign exchange were fully in place. The result was immediate benefit to the federal coffers, to the state coffers, and the local government coffers, because an amount of 5% of GDP is what those two subsidies were costing. When there was a subsidy on PMS, and petroleum products generally for a long time, when there was a subsidy on foreign exchange, between them they were costing 5% of GDP. If you say GDP was on average, let's say $400 billion, we all know what 5% of that is. $20 billion of funds that could be going into infrastructure, health, social services, education. And that is what is, the flow is now coming back into government coffers to be able to be deployed in those areas. The real change that has happened with the measures of Mr. President is that nobody can wake up and their target for the day or for the week or the month or the year is to get access to cheap funding, cheap foreign exchange from central bank, which they can now flip and overnight become wealthy for no value added, for doing nothing virtually except you know the right people. Similarly, they can no longer try and be part of an opaque, murky, and very inefficient petrol subsidy regime as a way of making money overnight.
This validation exercise exemplifies our unwavering commitment to charting a bold and transformative course for the federal civil service, laying a solid foundation for sustained progress and impactful outcomes. We embark on a collective journey to redefine the ethos of public service delivery in Nigeria, setting the stage for a civil service that is professional and efficient, globally competitive and responsive to the aspirations of all Nigerians. Our gathering today is centered on the validation of 4 transformative documents that will guide the principles, practices, and priorities of the federal civil service.
The issues in Nigeria's oil industry. Good news, is it going to be, or are we expected to have some twists and turns here? Well, it's 28 million liters of petrol per day to the marketers for distribution across the Nigerian market, and of course over $20 billion saved from fuel subsidy. Well, to unpack these issues and more, we are being joined by our in-house analyst, Dr. Sam Amadi. Well, glad to have you with us again today.
Thank you.
So it appears there's been a bit of relief now that the swords seem to have been sheathed, and Dangote and the oil marketers coming to a compromise. Before, there was a lot of back and forth, issues of production capacity, issues of production output, the import preferences and quality of the products, all these and more. So what must have changed?
I think what must have changed perhaps is some strategic calculation, of course, some good economics. Look, if Dangote supplies this market at competitive price, it will help the forex situation, obviously. And, that's part of the consideration. Again, he has probably assured, both the independent marketers and the government that he has the capacity. And he says they have proven capacity for 28 million barrels a day. Again, I think what may also have shifted is the politics of it. This has really, kind of reflected badly on government in terms of, are you trying to muzzle a local industrialist that government also made investment? I mean, whether Dangote has repaid, as he claims or not, the fact that they gave me a helping hand to get this running, and also the domino effect of a Dangote a refinery working at full capacity, of course, depending on getting local supply of the feed, the fuel itself. So I think things have shifted, the politics, the economics, but some will argue that maybe we need a lot more transparency as to what this is all about. I'm happy with what looked like economic nationalism, but at the same time, 2 points. One is, is this pricing now competitive, efficient, or arbitrary? Is it responding to?
Yes, you're talking about the politics of it all, and that exactly is what we find a little bit intriguing. Initially, I mean, it was as if the two parties were at loggerheads. As a matter of fact, at some point, the marketers did say they would prefer to import than to get their supplies from Dangote. Dangote, on the other hand, said, look, those of you who are importing, you're importing substandard products. So somehow, I mean, I think something must have happened.
Yes, but again, it tells a story around the high degree of lack of transparency.
Exactly, that's
in
the
that
point, the
sector.
lack of transparency.
It's clear. Look, this
but
allegation...
lack of transparency on whose part?
Largely on NNPC, if it asks me. Because look, Dangote, first, NNPC and all the associated regulators in that government oil industry, the allegation that we're importing bad fuel, substandard fuel from Malta, tied to allegedly to some persons of political prominence. We didn't have closure in a transparent manner. Two, Dangote, they are alleging Dangote substandards. Dangote is alleging that the ruse, the idea of sidelining him is a ruse to keep on importing
substandard products.
So here, still, we don't have clarity. Again, don't forget this is 28 million. So arguably, if we are doing 50 million, in some cases, or 30 million as alleged liter per day, global consumption in Nigeria, it means that there still be room for this level of imports to kind of
which means that 28 million liters per day is not sufficient for national consumption.
Based on what they've established as benchmark, we are hearing 30 million, 50 million. Okay, of course, we know that since the subsidy removal, we've seen reduction, sometimes up to 5 million drop in the daily consumption because of some of those that exist through smuggling are no longer open for that. The key issues we're going to resolve is how will this impact on the real price, the pump price. Now, if you look at, this is 20 naira of the
current pump price.
Yeah. No, of the wholesale price, because
it
all depends also on the level of efficiency in the retail side. Dangote is going to give to the marketers at 970.
So 970, that's minus 20 naira of what used to be.
When they were doing 990, we are still having buying from NNPC at maybe 1,050, 70, some places 1,100 or 150. So the question then is, are we going to get to maybe 990, let's say regular pump price? So the question people are saying that the level of inefficiency downstream, that in the retail side of it, would help. That's what. Second is sustainability. Now Dangote says we can sustain this. This
for
is
the next 6 months, remember.
6 months, okay. Again, this something from Dangote sounds like this is like bonanza. Okay, we want to make government happy. We are happy. So is it really driven by real market force? Is this a market determined price, or is it some kind of political, kind of give Nigerians some good news this yellow tide period, and then perhaps to regain control corporate good governance. So basically, if we're going to full deregulation and a market-based process, like the Minister of Finance has talked about in terms of reforms,
but now
they will need to have some market-based sustainability.
We'll actually go to the issue of pricing, but then this situation, is it a win-win situation for all concerned, or there definitely will be a victor when the dust dies down?
I think it's difficult to read how NNPC's positions sometimes appear ad hoc and transactional. So you know what is principled. So if it's principled, then it's a win-win. Dangote gets to first he has started receiving local supply. Okay, he's now selling to the market and probably control the whole market. And if he gets some foreign sales as he's doing, he has capacity to get to full capacity. So it's good business for him.
All right.
For the federal government, I mean, whatever can make price of fuel at the pump level cheaper for Nigerians in this period of multiple inflationary trends, whether it's energy, electricity, gas, everything. So it's going to happen. It's going to help with the inflationary impact, because if there's, let's say, 20 naira off the retail price, it's going to have a domino, ripple effect on several other. So the general price index will go down, inflation will go down slightly, and again the forex case situation may improve. So it's a win-win, as I said. But the key trigger here is this good faith transaction agreement? Is it based on clarity? And is this sustainable? And are we not also creating a little bit of a more dysfunctional monopoly by this project? So if you deal with all this, and I think maybe a coherent national economic ideology that says, look, we want to help Dangote play big. And this is the savings we can make from a domestic big player like Dangote. But this is also how we can regulate him and ensure that there's no price gouging. And that when the price to go down, it should, because before now, Ipman have been saying the price will go down because the price is going down because the global market is going down. So it's not like Dangote is doing a big deal.
Now that brings us actually to the question in the first place. Before Dangote Refinery came on stream, before they started producing and supplying, there were expectations. As a matter of fact, that narrative was being sold that, look, when Dangote comes into the market, the prices are going to crash. As a matter of fact, at that time, the price was ranging around just less than 900 naira, 850, 890, the retail price. The moment Dangote came into the market, the prices now shot up to over 1,000. So, now that we're having this bonanza situation, are we expecting a further drop in the prices?
Well, I think whether there will be further drop, two factors. One is what's happening to the global oil market. We are seeing to see small reduction in cost. Second is how Dangote, the incentive structure for Dangote and the regulatory response. Is it going to be as competitive? Now that's the problem here. If the competitive market, then Dangote would have to reflect the declining or rising cost in the global industry. The second is the inefficiency in the downstream side. That means yes, the Dangote may say X, but how much will be the marketers will put it on the private owned filling stations. Okay, but I think that we should see more reduction depending on what happens to the trend we're seeing. So Dangote's biggest game will be that somehow we expect Dangote, because it's a local manufacturer, a refinery, and then of course receiving local supply. So we would expect that Dangote to be cheaper, but it may not go that way. And Dangote, by this, is trying to say, okay, I can be a good corporate citizen and scale. I have the scale. Things can be better. If we get to full capacity, then we might see prices perhaps go down. So good news, but we'll be a little bit cautious.
Well, yeah, we have to be a little bit more cautious here. And maybe the next question I would have wanted to pose would be that what then happens to our other local refineries? But then, thanks so much for that unpacking of the situation, Dr. Sam Amadi.